Welcome back to my stream. We are going to do more Palia today. They just started the new Neji night market, so we're going to explore the night market, talk about how messed up jobs are, generally complain about life, and find some time to talk about Jesus. So we got plenty of stuff on the agenda today. One of my lights is not working. Bear with me. Alright. Well, apparently I'm going to have to stream with only one light working today, because apparently my other light is just not working at all. I might just have too much plugged into. As we talked about with Dexter, when Dexter was here last, I used 20 different USBs on my computer, so it might just legitimately be out of juice. It might not be able to pull anything more out of the poor system. Is it Scotty from Star Trek? I can't do it, Captain. I can't give her any more. Oh, there we go. There we go. Lights. Got both of them functioning now, so beautiful lights. Emmy joined Emmy's party. So at 12 or 12:10, the Chupas, these little dudes, are going to be released, and we have to catch a bunch of them, because we have to save up for either the Chupa Hat Fun Guy plush, maybe the Nergal plush, or a pillow. As you can see, we're many tickets away from that, though, so we will slowly get up some tickets. We'll show off some fireworks, because why not? And it's amazing how dead this already is, right? Like, this came out yesterday, and there's only like 10 people here so far, so hopefully more people join. Well, I guess maybe not. The less people, the more chance I have of winning the Chupa race, so let's see if we can activate the fireworks, though, at least. There they are. Got one. And that one. And this one. I just typed I until the ad finished. I don't know why you're getting ads. I have not re-enabled ads, so I don't know where ads are coming from, but you know, that's 1 cent put into the bank, so you know. That's 1 penny made today. One more penny to put into the unemployment fund that's coming. Welcome in, Bubble. Twitch is silly sometimes. It's so weird, all the games you have to play, like, to do ads properly on Twitch and all that, but also as I was thinking, like, I have a decent amount of views and follows on YouTube. Like, I typically average 1 to 10,000 views a day, and, you know, decent followers and all that sort of thing. But anytime that I bring up God or bring up religion, or if you say the word Jesus, like, that immediately means that video is going to get seen by no one. Where I usually get 10,000 views on a video, I'll get like 20 views because I said Jesus or I said God. So the hoops you have to jump through, and the way the silly platforms are, it's super frustrating sometimes to have to jump through all the hoops and everything else. Welcome in, everyone. I see a few more people joining us. there was the fireworks show. So, enjoy the fireworks. What I want to talk about today, though, is something I've been thinking on as I'm sitting at my desk waiting to be fired. Only 2 more months to go. Like, my self-worth has plummeted so much because we as Americans, we as men, put so much value, like, on our jobs. And we've talked about this before, right? Like, when you meet someone new, the first question you usually ask is, what's your name? And the second question is, well, what do you do? And for a lot of people, that question of what do you do, that's determining, are you someone worth talking to? Are you someone worth knowing? And if you say the wrong thing, or they judge you as, like, not having a good enough job, they're not going to talk to you, right? Your value as a man is, what work do you do? Do you have a home? Do you have a wife? And do you have a car? And, like, on the verge of losing my job, we know it's coming, we're laid off soon, like, as much as I try and be above that, and, you know, as a smart thinking individual, knowing that my job doesn't define my worth, it's amazing how much it's impacting me. That even though I know that's not how it works, I can't help but feel like I'm worth less because I'm going to be losing my job here soon. I can't help but feel like those societal pressures, like, what am I going to tell people? Like, do I really explain to everyone when I meet someone or talk to someone that, like, well, I'm unemployed, but it's not like I'm that kind of unemployed. I'm not unemployed. It's my job was taken away from me, so I'm not really an unemployed, right? Like, it's just, for women, it's, are you pretty enough? Are you thin enough? Are you smart enough, but not smarter than men? Are you a good cook? Do you have children and or married? And, like, that's 10 times, Emmy and I were just talking about this a whole lot, like, the rad trads, as y'all know, I am Catholic. I like to talk about Catholicism, but I deeply, deeply dislike the rad trads, the radical traditionalists in the Catholic circles, because they are the worst Catholics. And I'm just, come out and say it. Radical traditional Catholics are the worst Catholics, the worst Christians in the world, because you have these rad trads. Literally, one last night was telling someone their advice was, if your boyfriend doesn't make enough money, then dump him, because you need to find a husband who can make sure to provide you a life where you can stay at home mom and do the things you want to do. And as Emmy pointed out, right, like, that's a whole person you're trying to you're just saying throw a whole person away because they don't make enough money for you. That's awful theology. That's awful human beingness. Like, absolutely terrible. You're not worthless. You're worth a penny. You know, all the rad trads out there who come out and say, well, you know, if you don't go to the Latin Mass, you're not really going to Mass. Like, you're that's God's house, right? You are literally saying, if God's house doesn't work the way I think it should, then it's not worth going to, and it's not good enough. Like, you are literally trying to speak for God at that point. Like, do you not see the hubris, the ego, the problem? So I do not get along with the rad trads. And I understand to a degree wanting tradition. I understand wanting the Latin Mass for whatever the reverence you say that there is. It's okay to have a preference, but the fact that you don't portray it as a preference, that this is the correct way to do things, is just so frustrating. And I appreciate all the support from you all. I appreciate you all saying that I do have worth. And like I said, I am a smart, well-rounded individual, and I know logically that I do not lose my worth because I'm losing my job. But again, it's those emotions. Those emotions will get you, right? And it feels like I am losing value because I am losing my job, and that's a really hard feeling to overcome. All it takes me off about trads are their ardent distaste and bigotry towards the LGBTQ makes me so angry. Oh, 100%. I mean, you know it's bad. You know it's bad when the Pope, you know, the leader of your entire religion, has to denounce you for what you're doing. Like, you would think that if, again, the Pope, the holy figure, the one that many people feel is the closest to becoming the embodiment of Jesus Christ and holding up the values of Christianity, if the Pope has to come out and say, hey, you guys are being terrible humans, You would think you would listen to them and be like, oh man, the Pope said we're bad, we should think about what we're doing. But instead it turns into, man, the Pope says we're bad, the Pope must be a terrible person. Like, it couldn't possibly be me. And again, it goes back to that ego, like, you think you know God better than the Pope? Like, how egotistical do you have to be to think you know more about God than the Pope? And I'm not saying the Pope knows everything, I'm not saying the Pope is God, but you think to become Pope, you have to at least have some background in theology. I would guess you probably have some sort of degree in Jesus. You probably have a little bit of understanding of it, that thing called Christianity, right? Like, but it's that hard thing. It's hard to look inwards and say, am I the one who's wrong? Being a stay-at-home mom is a superhero job, not given enough credit for how exhausting it is. I have no idea. I look back at how awful of a kid I was. And I wasn't like an awful kid, but I still know how my mom put up with me for so many years. So it definitely, it takes a special kind of person to put up with children, especially multiple children. Speaking of which, how's the kid doing, Bubble? I know you said he was sick. How's he doing? Oh, it's starting. All right, we have to go catch the chupas. The chuppas, they're escaping. We need to catch them. Where are they? Okay, we're off to a rough start. This is not a great start. Where are the gopher things? Oh, there's one. Oh. So that person just got the one I was going for. So this is like, people are complaining so much about this that like, this is supposed to be a cozy, lovey game, and you literally have to compete with other people to get tickets, and they're saying that like it ruins the vibe. And like, this game has for sure, like, people ask me why I don't do Dungeons and Dragons as much, and you know the answer is that I don't really have time to do D&D as much these days. But also, like, being a dungeon master, being an artist, being a creator, in any way being responsible for like the enjoyment of others, people are content vampires. And I don't think people realize what they mean when they say content vampires. Like, people are unapologetically horrible content vampires. Like, this game is a completely free-to-play game that you can play for hundreds of hours and get something out of it. They ask nothing in return, just that you enjoy the game, and if you want to support them, you can send them a couple bucks, but it's completely free. And there are people who are already like, well, I played the game for 250 hours and there's nothing left for me to do. These game creators are awful. Why, how dare they make me be bored because there's nothing left for me to do? Dude, they gave you 250 hours of gameplay for free, and you're complaining that they're not giving you even more free stuff? And like, it was the same thing as a dungeon master. Emmy and I used to run a World of Warcraft role-playing guild. It was fairly large. At one point we had like 20 or 30 active people for all of our events, and I would spend hours writing up storylines, unique mechanics, different things for everyone's characters, and it would be like a whole-on adventure for every person. And then all these people would show up and they would demand all these special things. I'm not getting paid for any of this. I'm doing it out of enjoyment. And they would just suck it dry and be like, well, give us more. Make these things for me. Do it like this. I want this. And then they wouldn't even say thank you. There's only like 5 people who've ever thanked me for being a dungeon master across the thousands of games that I've run. Like, it's ridiculous that they just like the entitlement of, well, you owe me this vast world that interacts with my character and all these other things, and you better do it for free, and you better do it to my liking. Like, it's just awful. He still has a fever, hoping this is his last day with it. It broke for a little bit this morning, and now it's back, but he's fine in every other way. Well, it's good that he's fine in every other way, but fevers do suck. Especially in the summer, because it's like the hot and cold. Dexter, the fact that we live on a planet that provides everything for us and somebody decided to invent work makes me homicidal. I mean, that is a completely fair and valid point, right? Like, And there's some people who say, and I don't know if there's any truth to this, so don't take this as me saying this is absolutely true. This is just me repeating something I read on the internet. People were saying that medieval peasants actually have more free time than we did because their work was limited to a certain scope and there wasn't all these other obligations and other things to take care of. So, like, hunter-gatherer societies might work for 4 hours, whereas we're averaging 8 hours of work plus an hour and a half, 2 hours of commute, and then you've got, showers and social obligations and all those other things. Like, the thought that cavemen and medieval peasants had more free time than you is a scary thought in many ways. Granted, they may not have had the luxury, right? Like, people look at that and say, oh, well, I wish I was a medieval peasant. Like, I like bathing. I like deodorant. I like a lot of the food we get. I like the internet. So I don't necessarily know that I'd want to be a medieval peasant, but the idea of having more free time certainly is appealing. But I agree, the what we have come up with to fill our time is not a good or efficient system. Alright, we caught 100 chupas altogether. I got 100 tickets. And I was in 5th place. 5th place. Emmy's in 7th place with 9. Way to go, Emmy. Alright, we caught our chupas. Time to go back to the farm and start making more money. The grind never ends. Whew, the grind never ends. that is sadly too true. Preach, honestly. Like, and we're... I don't know how to say this anymore, right? I used to say that I was blessed to have a great job that I could work just 8 hours a day, and that was it, and that afforded us a house, a car, vacations, all the things we wanted. I don't know if I get to say that I'm blessed anymore, considering that's all getting taken away from me, but I know there's people who work 2 or 3 jobs, they're working 50, 60 hours a week, and they can barely afford food. So, I don't know, do I still get to... I was blessed, and now I'm no longer blessed? I don't know. I'm trying to be positive on this one. I was talking to Emmy about this last night. And it's embarrassing to admit, but you guys know that I like my honesty and I talk about everything, that I thought my faith in God was pretty unshakable, and I don't not believe in God anymore. I know God exists, but it's very hard to want to be active in prayer and loving and worshiping God when it's like, I'm losing everything here, right? I'm losing this job. I don't know what's going to happen next. And it's really, really hard, and I'm trying very hard to do it, but it's really hard to say thank you, God, for taking away these blessings. And I know there's something else out there for me. I know that there's more opportunity. I know in the end that it will all be okay and it will all work out. But it's really hard to be like, hey, thanks, G-Man, for letting me suffer right now, right? Like, it's very hard to do that. Emmy must have been at my base. Things look different here. She must have moved things around. So I'm trying really hard to remain positive, to have the proper attitude and outlook. But as I said, it is very difficult to appreciate, love, and worship God when you're undergoing, the suffering part of it. So, and I understand that God is understanding, right? God knows why I'm being the petulant child that I am with the frustration with this, but it doesn't make it any better, right? Like, having an explanation doesn't fix anything. It just explains what and why and how. My stream is frozen. Well, that's interesting. Let's fix that. Thank you for telling me. Technical problems. Let's see if this will fix it. That's the test, right? To remain strong in your faith, even in hardships and unfairness. And that is absolutely true. That is the test. And we see all sorts of things like that. Like the Book of Job talks about that a whole lot. So it very much falls into that, but that it's one of those things where like that doesn't necessarily help, right? Like, it doesn't make it any easier when you're going through it, right? So it makes sense, and I understand what you're saying, but it still doesn't make it any easier. But at the same time, right? Like I preach this every day to people. I tell this every day to people, right? So it's a little bit of that eating crow, right? I preach it, I tell people it, do the apologetics for it. Well, now I got to live it too, right? And that's not necessarily easy, but I've got to do it, right? Okay, why is this not fixing? Okay, let's try that and see if that fixes it. Now my Twitch is just completely locked up. Honestly, I think it's my streaming PC. I've been pushing and maxing this thing out like something fierce. One hard drive's completely maxed out. The poor thing has like 20 USB plugs in it at once. Like it's been a workhorse for a while, so I think it's starting to break, which is unfortunate timing because your streaming PC can't break as soon as you start being able to stream more, right? Like, what poor timing. I'm sorry, I'm trying to fix the stream right now, but it is not wanting to cooperate. I can't tell if I'm still live or not.